Welcome to Nature's Neighbor on AM 1230 KPRL. Nature's Neighbor. We're live and local and all about living sustainably right here on the Central Coast.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon out there. This is Melanie, your host of your Nature's Neighbor radio show right here on KPRL, sitting in the studio with our boy Chad Stevens, ready to take your phone call so that we can have a conversation based in food, farming, family, and everything that goes on in those topics right here on the Central Coast of California and beyond. And here we are on the last Monday of January, unfortunately with no rain and every bit of chance of trying to figure out how and what are we going to do to carry on a local food culture into the future with the obstacles in which we have. We have a ton of them, and we are here to have a 28-minute conversation, as I just told Mike as I shutting the door, getting ready to go on. Let's see how we can figure out how we can do this in the next 28 minutes of the show and stimulate conversation out there. Again, 238-5775, 238-KPRL. I want to talk a lot about chickens on this show because, you know, here we are at the last week of January, and for our season, we're getting ready to start hatching babies, and you know, this is the time when we are starting to think about Thanksgiving. Yes, in February, we think about Thanksgiving. We have to start getting our turkey eggs, any bit that we can get, and putting them in the incubator and start hatching our turkeys, because, you know, most heritage turkeys, they need, you know, 25 to quite a few weeks to get them to be of a good size. Yeah, it just depends on variety. It depends on weather. It depends on, you know, all that it takes to get our poultry going. And chickens, you know, it's all about hatching your babies, 22-day incubation, keeping the consistent humidity and temperature in our incubators about 98 degrees, and a simple rotation of our eggs. So 22 days if we put the eggs in today, so 22 days from here. And then from birth of that egg, the chicken that comes out of that egg, what comes first, the egg or the chicken, Chad? What comes first?
I would think the chicken. No.
Well, no, but
wait,
how did
the
the chicken?
egg? No, wait, let me think about this.
That's the funny question all the time we have. What comes first? But you have to wait for a chicken for 6 months before that chicken is going to lay another egg. So, you know, so here we have our babies that just got hatched out of our incubator. So 22 days until they hatch. Then the fun part is we got to keep those babies, we got to pretend like we're mommy. We got to keep those babies at 98 degrees temperature. Wow. For about 4 weeks until about approximately they're fully feathered. Giving them a good balance of greens, which is calcium, and proteins, which we use sorghum, and dried sugar snap peas, and millet and amaranth grains, to be able mashed up, because baby chicks can't eat, you know, big, thick seed. They can't process it. So this is our time. This is our time to invest. This is our time to create our infrastructure so that we can keep our system going. There's one good thing out there that I've noticed that is in promise with the weather, the warm days that we've been having, the lack of humidity that we've been having, is normally my chickens are still dormant. And in order for my chickens to get eggs this time of the year, we have to put lights on our chickens, because they need the warmth and they need a consistent amount of daytime light to be able to get them to lay. Well, in the years past, we usually have foggy mornings, which prevents the light to come through. We usually have storms, which also prevents the light to come through. And then it's normally not 75 degrees in the middle of January. But we have that temperature. So all of our chickens are coming out of dormancy, and we're starting to get eggs abundantly. And so this is one good, exciting promise of having these type of temperatures that we are having, is that we're getting a consistent amount of eggs. And yes, all chickens, you know, we wait 6 months for them to lay. And then naturally they go through a dormant time. You know, in your grocery stores, when you walk in your grocery store and you see the wall of eggs, you don't notice that there actually is a time off. And usually cold weather is what starts to stimulate, or the nighttime temperatures that are turning cold is what stimulates the chicken to start molting. Also this is usually around the second week of November, right before Thanksgiving, when everybody's wanting to bake and everybody wants eggs, is when all the chickens want to naturally go through their molting time and they don't want to lay. It's their resting period as well. It's a time when chickens are not laying, and you'll notice that they eat a lot more and they are moving a lot more. They need to free range a lot more. They're exercising a lot. So this is this time, which normally we're still in a molt. We don't usually come out of molt until usually about the middle of February. But because of the weather, we are out and we are starting to get into production. So that's why we're talking about putting those eggs into an incubator. And yes, we have roosters, so our chicken eggs are fertile. And so also note too that if you have your own incubator and you want to hatch your own babies, no, I cannot guarantee that you're not going to get a rooster, because I'm not that magic. But I can give us a call at Nature's Touch ahead of time. So area code 805-434-3062. I will keep the eggs out of the refrigerator, and you can take a dozen eggs or however many eggs home you want and put them into your own incubator, and you can hatch your own baby chicks if that is something exciting. I work with a lot of our local little preschools and schools that want to do that, and we hatch baby chickies in the classroom, which is a lot of fun for our kids to do. So if anybody out there wants to do this, just know that we have eggs available that are fertile, and you can hatch your own chicks. That's also another way to to understand what it actually takes to have this life form. And I've noticed too, a good benefit from our chickens is normally this time I'm having to move and turn my compost piles, because to stimulate the heat, to get the circulation through, but I haven't been wanting to turn them because I'm trying to retain any bit of moisture that I can in my compost pile. But I've also noticed that my chickens are taking what I call dirt baths in our compost pile. It's where they get in there and they fluff the dirt up inside and between their feathers, and that's also a way that they prevent mites and lice from attaching to their feathers. And I've noticed how healthy they are, and also how healthy my compost pile is right now, surprisingly, considering how dry we are. It's fun to watch, and when you're connected with nature and understanding it and trying to be a part of it instead of trying to conquer it, it's kind of fun to see the possibilities and see the excitement and see the change. And even no matter what is going on in the big picture, and I'll be honest with you, I am worried about the lack of water. How can we not? But at the same time, it is incredible to watch nature process and deal things in its own system and figure it out naturally. And it, if you look out there, there is a lot of promise, there's a lot of life, there's a lot of growing, but it's simple. It's not, on the massive production. Nature's, in a way, to me, is telling us that we have to think simple. We have to think within inside of our own little system in order to carry on, because this drought problem is not just right here in San Luis Obispo County. It's literally the whole western side of our country. And, Washington State is even having problems, Oregon, Nevada, of course. But even I just, was talking to some family friends that just came out of Mexico. They're having the opposite effect. They're actually having too much water. They're actually getting our storms, is what I said. Why don't they push some of those storms up here? So even farming-wise down in Mexico, they're struggling right now because of having too much water. Normally, they're the ones, we at Nature's Touch only support within California, but on most of your commercial grocery stores, a majority of that food is coming out of Mexico, and even they are struggling to get our commercial markets the product in which they demand. So there's another reason why we should be looking, not only not knowing the food that's coming out of Mexico, but just to be able to understand what we have when we need it, and to be able to feed our own community. That is why it is so important that we are continuously planting, managing, and harvesting the food that we can in this community, but by doing it smart. Also, we were talking a little bit about chickens. I agree, chickens are the gateway drug to many other animals. I always say, once you have one chicken or two chickens, you can't just have two, you have to have more. And I am the culprit of that as well. But you got to understand that you got to know your system. You can't get in over your heads, and especially for our backyard raisers and producers. Chickens are not one of those creatures that you can just lock up and out of sight, out of mind. And we have a phone call.
Hi, welcome to Nature's Neighbor. You're on the air.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello. So a question about raising shallots, okay?
Mm-hmm.
First off, why don't they have any in the local farmer's market? Doesn't anybody grow them around here? Must be complicated. So I looked up on the internet and so forth, and I can either buy bulbs or seeds. Which one do you recommend, and when do you put which one in the ground?
So shallots are, I think, the best cooking allium or onion that you can possibly have in your kitchen, because the more heat that you apply to a shallot, the sweeter they become. So when you cook them, you cut them into raw, they're going to be nice and spicy. You cook them and they get really sweet. I think at farmers market, there's not really yet a demand growing yet for shallots, so possibly that's why we don't see them yet at farmers market. At Nature's Touch, we sell quite a bit of them. And it's because the people that are walking in know them. I do have to educate a lot on what is a shallot, what is a garlic, what is a cipollini onion. Cipollinis are your flat Italian onions. These are just some of the things that are not as common in our common grocery item collection for most people. So the way to grow shallots is exactly the same way to grow any of the other alliums. They're all related to, your onions. Right now, by the way that our temperature in the atmosphere as well as in the soil, the best choice I would recommend would be to plant it by a bulb. And why I say that is because if you plant a shallot seed right now, it takes 18 months to harvest. So by planting a seed in dry, cold soil, that seed is going to germinate, yes, but it's going to sit there a little while. And it's going to kind of go into a little bit of a dormancy and need just as much water as that bulb would require in order for it to grow.
Could I start them in the greenhouse?
You could, yeah. That would be the best way, because then you would get a jump start on it, too.
But it'd still be 16, 18 months.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
18 months is the common average, and all your alliums are biennial. So it takes 2 years to see a flower and seed. So it's 18 months right before they're going to flower is when you're going to harvest them. And so that, keeping that in mind, it takes it that long, even though that little tiny shallot that you see, it still took it that long to get it to size up and to produce that food-bearing bulb. The other thing is to keep in mind that onion top or the shallot top is also edible. So when you plant your seed and you start to get that green grass look thing that starts to shoot up out of the ground, that is also edible. So all your onion tops are also known as a scallion. So make sure that you harvest those back. Once they get to a good harvestable size, harvest those back and use those as a green onion. Also, the more you cut on them like that, the more the bulb is going to bud out, in a sense, and get a little bit bigger. So keep it in mind. So just because it takes 18 months to see that shallot, know that you're going to have food that whole entire 18 months. So kind of like if you've ever grown chives, you know how you cut chives
right
back at the soil, and then they come back bigger and fuller every time you cut? That's the same thing with the shallot. So just keep cutting the tops, eating the tops, and actually a lot of the tops are actually even 3 times the more flavor than the actual bulb.
Okay, back to planting the bulb. I've heard plant it in the fall like you do garlic, and I have no, wait till February.
Yeah, and it just varies. Actually, you could get away with planting them right now because of the way that we really haven't had a fall. Realistically, what the trigger is the moisture that we get in the fall would stimulate that plant. Well, we never got that moisture, so planting a bulb now, keeping the soil nice and loose around your plants, keeping it evenly moist, making sure that it drains, that it doesn't sit in soggy soil. And the biggest thing right now is to get good amount of compost around your plants and also a good mulch to be able to retain that moisture into the soil.
And I got lots of that. You know that.
I do, Bob. I do. And I thank you for that call, because we actually, when you threw that out at me, we are getting that question a lot in the store. So hopefully I just answered it for quite a few people. And we are right here at our first break. When we return, I want to share our our upcoming classes that we're going to have at Nature's Touch and a couple of events that we're involved in. So stay tuned after these messages, and we will continue our Nature's Neighbor conversation right here on KPRL. Welcome back to the second half of our show right here on KPRL. I am your host, Melanie Blankenship, sitting in the studio with our boy Chad Stevens, ready to take any more phone calls on our little quick show here that we have. Thank you, Bob, for that phone call that we just had about growing shallots. And we're getting a lot of those questions in the store, and it's really fun to use this radio show to be able to answer those questions all at once and have everybody be able to tune into a really cool local radio show and station that has done a lot of really cool things for our community. So with that, I also want to make a quick couple of notes and invitations to Nature's Touch's classes that are continuing. I have a lot of people asking for us to reschedule our Growing Food with Nature course, which is a 4-week course, and we put it on a Saturday. Our next class is going to be February. Of course, when I, sit here on the radio and I'm trying to hurry, but it doesn't want to load. Okay, so our Saturday Growing Food with Nature course starts February 15th. Those classes are going to start at 2 o'clock. They're an hour class, so from 2 to 3. And the way that this class works is it's a 4-week class. Each week has different topics that we're going to cover, but all based on teaching you how to grow your own food within whatever system you have, whether it be container to acre and beyond. And we teach you a biodynamic system, meaning so I have a situation. How do I deal with this one? Or I need to feed my family, or I need to supplement my groceries. How do I do that within the system that I have? So that is what that course is all about. It's 4 weeks, like I said, so it's 4 Saturdays starting in February 15th. We have one that's ongoing right now that is on a Tuesday evening. We're in our second week class. We will reschedule a weekday class after the Saturday class has started. So we're going to continue this on for about the next 3 months. And so the class is $125. We do need to sign up before the class starts on the 15th. So please give us a call or come into Nature's Touch. So the call, to give us a call, area code 805-434-3062. And come in, get your name on the list, and get the class paid for. But also, too, I want to make this very clear. My gardening classes, if you're working out of one garden, I don't care if you're a husband and wife or you're 2 neighbor friends and you're working out of one garden, I'm going to charge you one class. My classes are designed to specifically help that particular garden to grow food. So get a group of you guys together, get people working out of the same soil. Let's conserve on things. So instead of growing 15 different tomatoes in 15 different gardens that only one tomato plant is getting eaten from, why can't we focus the energy on one garden growing 15 different plants that is feeding 15 different families? That is my goal, and to be able to teach how to do this yourself. Because, yes, granted, I am a business, and I would love for everybody to come, and I would love to make that money because it'd make my bill paying a lot easier. But at the same time, that's not what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is keep the food within our system and teach us all how to do it. Right before I came into the studio right now, Mike and I were having the conversation that there is a really cool article that just got published by the New York Times, a little different there, that is talking about the elderly of organic farming. Do you know that the average food producer, whether they be organic or not, but the average food producer, so not the farmers that are growing ethanol corn or genetically modified soy, but the actual age of farmers who are producing food in this country are at the age of 56. That most average age of our growers right now are 65 and above in California. So this article that came out, actually, it was an Esalen Institute, which is in Big Sur, invited, which they call their celebrities. Without these farmers, they would not be able to feed the people that come and stay at Esalen Institute. I was really excited. I got told about this article coming out yesterday because over 90% of the farmers that they were talking about have been supplying my store for the last 15 years. But it also brings the realization that if we don't go out and shadow these people, learn from these people, not take from these people, meaning, yes, I would love to be able to go back and get a job and be paid to learn from these guys, but I don't want to do that. What I want to do is shadow these people and learn from them and be able to figure out how to feed myself by myself, with or without them. But at the same time, why do we need to reinvent the wheel when the wheel has already been rolling? These guys know things that we don't have to worry about figuring it out. They have already figured it out. And so I would love for everybody who's interested to go and all you got to do is, it's Elderly in Organic Farming, I think is the title, or Elderly of Food is the title. So Google search it or go to New York Times. It was published yesterday. And also, with all of that, here we are at the end of our show again. I want to just drive you guys all to Nature's Touch Nursery and Harvest's website. Click on upcoming events. That calendar has been updated about every other day. So there's a bunch of classes that are coming. I even have a raising poultry class that's coming as well. So we talked a little bit about chickens. I can help you do it yourself. So just know to go to our website so that you can see all the things that are going on at Nature's Touch in beautiful downtown Templeton. And here we are at the very end again, at the very end of January. Please, whatever you do, go out there and conserve water to whatever possibility you can. We need it.